Hi, beautiful. Welcome to A Course in Miracles, Lesson 10. My thoughts do not mean anything. This idea applies to all the thoughts of which you are aware or become aware in the practice periods. The reason the idea is applicable to all of them is that they are not your real thoughts. We have made this distinction before, and we will do so again. You have no basis for comparison as yet. When you do, you will have no doubt that what you once believed were your thoughts did not mean anything. This is the second time we have used this kind of idea. The form is only slightly different. This time the idea is introduced with my thoughts instead of these thoughts. And no link is made overtly with the things around you. The emphasis is now on the lack of reality of what you think you think. This aspect of the correction process began with the idea that the thoughts of which you are aware are meaningless, outside rather than within, and then stress their past rather than their present status. Now we are emphasizing that the presence of these thoughts means that you are not thinking. This is merely another way of repeating our earlier statement that your mind is really a blank. To recognize this is to recognize nothingness when you think you see it. As such, it is the prerequisite for vision. Close your eyes for these exercises and introduce them by repeating the idea for today quite slowly to yourself. My thoughts do not mean anything. Then add, this idea will help to release me from all that I now believe. Feel that sense of freedom. We often don't realize how captive we've been held by ideas, beliefs, and thoughts that we had assumed were our own, but in fact are not. The exercises consist, as before, in searching your mind for all the thoughts that are available to you, without selection or judgment. Try to avoid classification of any kind. In fact, if you find it helpful to do so, you might imagine that you are watching an oddly assorted procession going by, which has little, if any, personal meaning to you. So we're creating a little bit of distance between us and the random thoughts that pass by through our mind's eye. As each one crosses your mind, say, my thought about, fill in the blank, does not mean anything. My thought about blank does not mean anything. Today's thought can obviously serve for any thought that distresses you at any time. In addition, 5 practice periods are recommended, each involving no more than a minute or so of mind searching. It is not recommended that this time period be extended, and it should be reduced to half a minute or less if you experience discomfort. Remember, however, to repeat the idea slowly before applying it specifically, and also to add, this idea will help to release me from all that I now believe. This is a really powerful lesson, and these early ones can be disorienting because, of course, we're thinking a thought. We think it originated with us and that this is our true beliefs. But how much of our thoughts are actually societal programming? How much of our thoughts are actually things we've heard other people say that we just accepted? And then in the Course in Miracles, it goes a step beyond that even and says, your mind is really a blank. In fact, that's the deepest goal of meditation, is to go to empty mind and just be. But this procession of thoughts, this oddly assorted procession going by that we think is us, that we are so deeply identified with our thoughts that we actually believe they're us, indeed does not mean anything, not intrinsically. other than the meaning you've applied to it. So when you have a disturbing thought, an intrusive thought, or really any thought, remind yourself, my thoughts do not mean anything. My thoughts do not mean anything. I remember when I first read this, I thought, well, if my mind isn't filled with random jumbled thoughts, what will be in there? Well, you'll find out for yourself. But I'll give you a little taste of what I've experienced, and that is presence, awareness, witnessing, not judging or describing or categorizing or ranking. Simply observing. That is a beautiful state to be in, and so much more peaceful. And in my experience, a lot of wisdom comes from that state, because you're stepping out of the confusion, you're stepping out of the noise, and you're able to really see. Thanks for joining me today. I'll see you tomorrow for lesson 11.